But I'm guessing that if you all come here because you want to make content like this.
Her emergence marks the beginning of spring. After months of confinement underground, she toboggans down the slope, perhaps to clean her fur, perhaps for sheer joy.
Great, isn't it? How amazing. Of course you want to make stuff like that. It's brilliant.
Hi, my name is Irina, and that's Peter, my tutor and the head of directing and producing Science and Natural History. Why am I here? Peter is right, because I want to make stuff like this. Wildlife has always been fascinating to me, and this vocation seemed like the perfect way to combine a degree in zoology with a passion for visual arts. But it is also a practical and intellectual challenge. Peter calls this filming the impossible. In natural history, it may seem simple: find an animal and film it. But there are challenges. Animals can be too fast, too slow, too small, they are nocturnal, or simply too dangerous. However, once you find them and have the right tools, animals are physically there. Compared to science, where we often deal with concepts, ideas, and subjects that can't be physically filmed. Too big, too far away, invisible, intangible.
All those things. And yet you need to make a TV program. And the one thing you can't do, don't like it, is just a black screen.
Peter made a module called Creating the Impossible. It's not just a creative challenge, it's presented to us as a storytelling tool, because it's very easy in science and in natural history filmmaking to fall in love with the science. But are we telling a story? Are we taking the viewer on a journey? I came to this course thinking that I can point my camera at a subject, and there, I have a film. Clearly there's a lot more to it, especially when the subject is impossible. So in this dissertation, I want to explore what impossible means in natural history and science filmmaking, what used to be impossible but technology has made possible, the lengths we have to go to in order to film our subjects, and how we make films about things we cannot see. All of this with a healthy dose of a very human obsession, getting the impossible shot.
We don't deserve the impossible.
Let's start with the tools. Some of the things that once felt impossible in natural history are now routine, all because of advances in camera technology. The speed issue was tackled in 1879 by Edward Muybridge. He bridged art and science through photography, using a row of tripwire cameras to capture a galloping horse. He showed that all four hooves leave the ground at once. In doing so, he laid the foundation of high-speed photography. We perceive motion as natural at around 24 frames per second, record far more than that, and time stretches, movement slows. The invisible is revealed. Modern phantom cameras can capture tens of thousands of frames per second, compared to regular cameras, which can only film up to 240 frames per second. This reveals behaviors no human eye could register. At the other extreme is the problem of things that happen too slowly. Here, the same principle applies. Capture a single frame every few minutes, hours, or even days, and time compresses. Most modern cameras can do this, and older versions can be connected to an intervalometer. And then a sunset lasts seconds, a plant grows before your eyes. In both cases, the camera reshapes time, so we can see what was always there, but too subtle for the human eye. The same rule applies in other situations. When things are too small or too far away, we stop trying to get closer to the subject. Instead, we focused on understanding magnification, the lens's ability to enlarge the subject on the camera sensor. When animals are nocturnal, we naturally focused on ways to bring more light, but the real breakthrough came when cameras stopped relying on visible light altogether. Thermal cameras, originally developed for military use, detect the heat signatures emitted by living bodies. When humans were too intrusive or animals too dangerous, we stopped thinking of ways to protect ourselves. Instead, we tried to remove the human from the equation. Camera traps, triggered by motion or heat, allow animals to film themselves with no crew present. Carefully built hides conceal filmmakers for days or weeks, letting wildlife return to natural behavior. And more recently, drones have opened up aerial perspectives without the noise and intrusion of helicopters or ground teams. These elements might sound almost basic, perhaps far too basic for postgraduate discussion, but they were once impossible, and they have become the backbone of wildlife filmmaking today. Even in the most recent landmark documentaries, although the technology has evolved, the cameras are better, the images are sharper, it's still these same principles: speed, scale, light, distance, and presence that tell our stories again and again. For my impossible film, I explored the idea of perspective, specifically how it is impossible to truly see the world through an animal's eye. I called the film "Can You See What I See?" Applying the same rules, I constructed sequences using wide, mid, and close-up shots, as well as macro and speed. The journey began with human vision, which was the easiest to recreate. I simply filmed what I see every day using a normal lens, natural angles, and standard colors. Next came the dog's perspective. This is when it gets a bit more fun. Scientific research suggests that dogs see a blurrier world with more limited color range. To capture this, I experimented with wide lenses, including a tilt-shift lens to distort focus, and the fisheye lens to create a much wider field of view, to mimic the 280 degrees that dogs can see. The most fascinating challenge was recreating the vision of a dragonfly. Dragonflies can see almost 360 degrees and detect colors in UV light far beyond human understanding. To get close to this, I used an Insta360 camera with fisheye lenses on both the front and the back. While this helped create the effect, it also created a new problem. The camera captured everything, including me, my equipment, and anything else I wanted to keep out of the shot. In the end, I had to rely on my actor, Gus, to operate the camera while I hid behind a tree. It was a challenging process, but it gave me a glimpse into just how impossible it is to experience the world exactly as another creature does, but also the possibilities that equipment can open up when I experiment with different cameras and lenses. As a director, I've already felt the pull of the perfect shot and the attachment to my rushes in the edit, simply because I know how much effort it took to get them. That effort can quietly turn into justification. We keep a shot not because it serves the story, but because it was hard to capture. In reflecting on this, for this dissertation, but also for my own well-being in my career, I've come to realize how easily this mindset slips into a kind of perfectionism that can create pressure within a team. What starts as dedication to the work can, if left unchecked, foster a tense and unhealthy production environment. Widely known as one of the best filmmakers who has ever lived, Stanley Kubrick is known for titles like The Shining, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Full Metal Jacket. His work is studied in film schools as it is regarded as one of the most influential. What is discussed less often is what it was like to work with him. Kubrick was known for demanding sometimes even over 100 takes of a single scene. The working environment was tense, exhausting, and psychologically draining.
Just get him in and let him realize we're out of time.
During the filming of Eyes Wide Shut, famous actor Tom Cruise got a stomach ulcer from the stress. And in the production of The Shining, Shelley Duvall was required to perform 127 takes of the baseball bat scene. A simple scene that a talented actress like her probably got spot on in the first few takes. Duvall reported that she started losing her hair because of the amount of stress she was under.
I don't sympathize with Shelley.
Kubrick resisted the label of perfectionist. He truly believed he was serving the work. And perhaps he was. In the masterpiece Barry Lyndon, Kubrick took lighting to a different level. Shot mostly on location, the abrupt changes of weather would have made me very nervous to work with Kubrick, knowing how much he liked to be in control. But instead of fighting nature, he embraced it. Throughout the film, the light shifts naturally, sometimes even within the same shot. Rather than chasing the perfect continuity, Kubrick chose the authenticity of the moment. But what was special about this film was the innovation. For the candlelit scene, Kubrick wanted the whole set to be lit only by candlelight for authenticity. He was told that it was impossible, as there is simply not enough light for the camera to film. He had a solution. There is a rumor that NASA hired Kubrick in 1969 to rehearse the moon landing. A year later, when the production of Barry Lyndon started, he created the impossible by acquiring 3 ultra-fast Zeiss lenses that were originally engineered for NASA's lunar program. Even then, using them was far from easy. The lenses were very heavy, so he hired engineers to adapt the cameras to support them, and the focus depth of field of these lenses was extremely tight, which meant that they had to carefully calculate the distance of the subject. This means that the actors had to have very calculated movements throughout the shots. This overall sounds like a more creative process where the whole team could contribute to achieving the director's vision.
We would go out in the morning and it would be probably raining and overcast.
The famous producer duo, the Daniels, known for The Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once, also reflect on learning this the hard way.
After Swiss Army Man, we had this big debate because we had just shot this movie and it was the hardest thing we'd ever done. But I was like, I don't want to make more movies if it's that hard, if it's that unpleasant. This time we tried to not torture ourselves or the crew, and it paid off. It made the movie better.
So many people, when they talk about the process of filmmaking, they use military and war metaphors. It's like, yes, oh, we're in the trenches. And our whole careers, we've been trying to reframe that, less like the military and more like summer camp.
At the center of the story is a creature that cannot be looked at directly. Nope is a metaphor about Hollywood, and in a host of other topics follows the obsession of getting an alien attack on camera, as if the UFO only truly exists if they've captured it on film. The characters quickly realize that the only way to capture evidence of it is through indirect mechanical observation. Funny how technology was of no use here. And then the cinematographer Antler's host makes the shocking decision to go after the impossible shot, dying shortly after.
We don't deserve the impossible.
In this way, Nope mirrors the mindset often found in natural history crews, the belief that if something extraordinary exists, it must be filmed, and that the camera is the only way to prove it. But what happens when the subject isn't there? In science documentaries, we often explore ideas that can't be touched or seen, things like infinity, the birth of the universe, or the sheer scale of it all. These are concepts that even scientists admit are difficult to comprehend. So how do you make a film about something that can't be filmed? Of course, we have computer-generated imagery, and every year it becomes more detailed, more spectacular, more convincing. But it's also expensive. Just 1 minute of high-end visual effects can cost tens of thousands of pounds. In Hollywood, that's manageable. A film like The Avengers reportedly had a budget of about 200 million, with a significant portion devoted to CGI.
Might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cat. I'm always angry.
Much of it was shot against green screens.
I'm always angry.
But science documentaries don't have those budgets. Even a premium documentary for Netflix might have a total budget of a few $1,000,000, and beyond cost, there is another problem. Too much CGI can feel lazy. Visual effects can make a film, and they can break it. VFX is not there to rescue weak storytelling. If it isn't embedded into the script from the start, it shows. This is exactly what happened in my film. Although I planned to use VFX from the start, my lack of experience and poor planning meant it did not work as intended. In the dog vision scene, I wanted colorful textures to appear around the ball and the dragonfly to show how dogs rely more on smell than sight. However, the VFX artist could not track these subjects because they were too subtle in the grass. The solution would have been to add a bright item at the location of the ball and the dragonfly and take 2 shots so they can be overlaid. The dragonfly scene was more successful, mainly because of color grading rather than VFX. However, the large amount of on-screen text was very difficult to read and stay on the screen for too short. Overall, the film feels too abstract, and the opening section is longer than it needs to be. The story becomes more interesting only when we get to the dragonfly scene, but then we have already seen more than half of the film. We don't really get it or connect with it until later in the film. So what does a good director do? With limited resources and an abstract subject, how do you make something feel visual? The answer lies in creativity and good planning. A talented director with a smart production team will always find ways to express the unfilmable. Take the work of Brian Cox in his series Wonders of the Universe for BBC. These programs combine carefully used CGI with something far simpler. Brian himself, real locations, familiar landscapes, physical props, everyday analogies, used to explain phenomena that happen light years away.
So the reason that Enceladus wobbles is because it's not completely solid. And we now think, by high precision measurements and simulations of exactly how Enceladus wobbles, that there is a global liquid ocean beneath the frozen icy surface of Enceladus. And we can infer that because the laws of physics that apply to eggs here on Earth also apply to moons.
It's clever filmmaking. It feels alive, approachable, and most importantly, engaging. We don't feel lectured. We feel invited into the mystery, something we can even play along with from our homes. And this is where it becomes powerful. The human experience. Brian Cox isn't just a physicist, he's a storyteller.
The action of simple laws. In this case, it's just the wind blowing sand grains and gravity pulling them down to the ground. And I think the best and certainly the most evocative example of that in the solar system has to be the rings of Saturn.
When you see him on a poster or on TV, what do you think? Because I think
massive stars, giant stars,
Cosmos,
our solar system, gravity.
Gravity has completely gone away.
Or David Attenborough.
So birds of paradise, our blue planet, animals alive, our planet.
Or still Bakshal.
Now, looking into the mouth of an anaconda.
She is much more aggressive.
This has turned into a serious situation.
They become the faces of wonder, the voices that invite knowledge into our lives. The documentary A Trip to Infinity takes a similar approach, but without a familiar presenter. We don't know this physicist at first, but within minutes we connect with their curiosity, their awe, their struggle to grasp what infinity really means.
Thinking about I'll be dead forever. There's a side to me that's worried about it, but then again, I don't plan to be thinking about it.
And maybe that's the trick. When you can't film the subject itself, you film your relationship to it. Finally, my perspective on filming the impossible has substantially changed.
Bloody hard to watch.
It's not always about what we see and how to film it. More often, it's about how we connect to it. It's not so much about getting it perfect, but more about preserving the authenticity of the moment and bringing the human element to it.